Hey guys, thanks for joining me. And if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hello, peoples. Welcome to Sharp Ends. I'm going to do a quick disassembly and maintenance video on the CJRB Prado, which is a great knife designed by Ray Laconico. It's a budget knife, and it's a full-size knife, too. This thing is large for big mitten hands, which I appreciate. A lot of budget knives are not this large. This comes in at 3 3/4 inch of sharpened edge, which is, again, very large, and overall 8.5. Big, nice handle scales. Also, this is a bar lock, and it's nicely well rounded. I love the swedge shape to this. This is different than a lot of knives that Ray has designed in the past, and I appreciate that. It comes in different colors as well. This is not a review. The review will come right after this, so I don't want to get too much into that. But I like this. One reason why I want to do a disassembly is that I have carried this around and I've used it. The action doesn't feel the best to me, and there's just a little bit of lock stick here. Now, I wonder if a little bit of grease, when they greased this up, someone was heavy-handed with it and put a little bit of grease close to the lock. So the lock and the pivot are very close together, and any kind of oil in the lock mechanism, especially of a bar lock, I have found, can cause lock stick. And that right there, I'm feeling sometimes just a little bit of lock stick. It's not the end of the world, but these days, with a budget knife, you get used to the fact that everything is perfect. It used to be that you get a budget knife and it wouldn't be perfectly centered, or there'd be some lock stick or whatever, and you were fine with that because it was a budget knife. But these days, manufacturing, the OEMs have gotten so good at the engineering of this stuff that you don't really see it that much. So I'm really curious about that lock stick and getting in here. I don't enjoy opening up and fixing lock bars. I've had problems with them in the past. And these look like Omega springs in there, I can kind of see, which again aren't the best in the world to work with. And I usually don't take apart the whole mechanism, but I hope that I can get in there and clean it out. All right, so we're going to take it apart. I'm going to talk about the construction of this and other things. I'm going to go to warp speed here. So I'm going to take this apart, and once it's open, we'll take a look inside together. So, and before I do that, though, I ask you to please like, subscribe, leave a comment, smash that like button. Comments really help out the channel. Really appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and do it. Engage warp speed. And we're back. All right, so I've taken out the screws, and I'm just going to pry loosely. This should now be able to come free, but so what I'm going to use is my little squeegee tool. This is from a knife kit, a watch kit, and I don't know if this will exactly come free or not. All right, great. So take off the scale first, and then we can see the inside. You can see how they've been able to make this fairly light by look at all that machining. And you can see the Omega spring comes over and is attached to there. And then, interesting enough, do you see this little notch here? Here, I'll show you what that's for. So I'm going to have to go ahead and take the, I'm going to go ahead and have to take the, can I take that off that way? Or do I have to unscrew it entirely? So the pivot is locking, even though it has a screw on each side. The pivot column inside fits into the liners. So I have to take off the pivot from each side, which has white Loctite on it, which sometimes can be too much for it. If it is, you can heat it up a little bit with a heat gun, but watch out with this type of material, because I don't know what happens if you could easily melt it. So maybe not that, but you don't want to strip by accident. You don't want to strip the head. It looks like I only need to remove one of these, everything, one of these screws here on the lock, on the wire clip. I thought everything was T8, but it turns out that the clip screws are T6, which seems to be typical of these budget knives. All right, so this should be free now, except for this guy here. I need to finish. I started this. Oh, you know what? I bet that that's free spinning. That's why I'm having trouble with it. I bet that this pillar is now free spinning. Yeah, that's what's happening. I'll try applying some pressure here while I turn, but if the Loctite's on there really well, it is going to provide a problem for me. All right. So can I do what I want to? No, I can't. All right. So I now need to squeeze this in order to get that out, which is unfortunately a problem, because that I will end up probably scratching the pillar, the black on the pillar. But I'm going to use a little pair of pliers, and I'm going to clamp down here, and hopefully I'll be able to then loosen this. I think it worked. Yeah, it worked. Lucky me. Okay, so I've taken out my stuff in order too. So this is I've laid it out. So from pivot back, and that is the show scale side, and then this now is the clip side. So this should be good to come off now. Was I wrong? Are both of those screws in there? I guess they are, huh? I was wrong. So I thought that I only had to remove one of the screws for the clip, but it looks like both go into the liner. All right, now we're off. All right, great. Here we are. There is indeed evidence of a lot of grease on this knife, and so in order to get this off, to move this now, all I have to do is, most of these bar locks have this little notch here. So all I have to do is pull back on this and put the lock bar down there. And now this is free swinging. And now I would be able to, if I wanted to, would I be able to remove the pivot? Interesting. It looks like I need to disengage and entirely disassemble the lock in order to get to the pivot, because I am not able to push the pivot through. Why would that be? Or am I just being silly? Is it just stuck because there's some extra Loctite in there? When a blade is flopping around like this, obviously it can close and hurt you. So some people recommend that you tape it. I'm not going to do that. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, I don't necessarily want to fully disengage the lock, because then I feel like that's the times when I get in trouble with Omega springs a lot. If I was going to continue disassembling this so I could get to the bearings, what I would do is I would take this Omega spring out from here, and this Omega spring out from there, and then I'd be able to get the lock bar out, and then I'd be able to basically twist and get all these pillars out and fully deconstruct the knife to get in there. I don't want to do that. Seems like a lot of extra work. What I'm going to do is clean out what the problem is for me is the lock stick. So I'm going to make sure that we have no extra grease anywhere around this pivot at all. And I'm going to also clean the scales out. And I'm going to try to clean the lock bar as well by getting in here and cleaning the faces of the lock bar with, this is alcohol on a Q-tip. All of my tools, everything, there's a long list in the description of all the tools I use. If you use any of those links that go to Amazon, it does help out the channel. Not required, but it helps, you know, gives me a few cents here and there. I'm non-sponsored, so that's a real easy way to support me if you're going to buy that stuff anyway. All right, so now that grease is out of there. And I don't think, given how loose this is, the knife has been flying out of here. How centered is this knife now? Or is it totally hard to tell? All right, I'm going to move the lock back up. Sorry if I was doing that off camera. Just playing around with it. I'm going to move this lock back up here. Locked in place now. And I'm going to see if I still feel, I mean, it's different without the scales on. It could be something about the geometry too, but to me, that feels better. I'm not feeling the lock stick anymore. I'm going to clean that little nook out there again. That's where the lock bar engages. All right. Feels good to me now. Good, good. And now on this side over here, I'm going to take just a little bit of Hops number 9 gun lube, and I'm going to see if I can, with this very thin needle, put one drop in there and in there on either side of where the bearings are, and I'm going to work it in. So I just put one single drop, and I'm going to turn this around. I did it from the opposite side from the lock bar. I put the very bare minimus in there. I know that I said they probably put too much in, but you can see on here where the grease was, it's mostly dried out now. And that's the problem, is when the grease collects a bunch of dirt, it kind of dries out and forms this gunky paste. And that gunky paste is what's causing the lock stick. So by cleaning it all off, I'm therefore able to get rid of that lock stick. But also you got to think, you know, the bearings in there are probably gunked up too. So I'm just going to put one single drop of lube in there. Shouldn't hurt it, and it should not cause the same problem. It does feel a lot better, I gotta say. I'm gonna just, for now that I have it all the way open, I'm just gonna one more time clean it with a little bit of alcohol. Make sure that absolutely nothing's in there. All right. Cool. Put that back in. And now I'm going to put this knife back together again. All right, so we're going to go to warp speed, and at the end, I'm going to say a couple more words. Might put on some KPL knife shield on the blade as well, and then we'll be ready to review this knife. All right, engage warp speed. All right, and we're back. All right. Do we still have that lock stick? I'm not feeling it. Lock stick is gone. Well, no. If I'm feeling it at all, it's just the slightest amount, but it is a bazillion times better. So yeah, you know, all these tools are inexpensive. If you're gonna have any amount of knives at all, you obviously are gonna have some kind of these tools to work on a knife. It's not the end of the world if a knife comes to you and there's something not quite right with it. 9 times out of 10, you can fix it yourself and maintain it yourself. So, although it is a little disappointing in today's day and age that you know, something like that could happen, it's not out of this world that, you know, for $50 that there's going to be some guy on a Friday who applies a little bit too much grease, a little happy with the grease gun, and you know, gets there, and that's a common problem with lock bars. So not the end of the world. So this isn't a review. This was just a disassembly and maintenance video. The review is going to be coming out a couple days after this video comes out. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Comments really help the channel. And if you want to get a chance to win a knife every month, all you got to do is follow the link down below to Patreon. For $3 a month, you will be entered to win a knife of the month. Thanks so much, people, and I will see you next time on Sharp Ends. Bye-bye now.